Hey everybody, so I'm out taking a walk. It's a nice day. I found something interesting. Saw this bright red, so I decided to walk over and see what it was. And I thought I found somebody's glasses case, right? It's a cigarette roller. Like, that's kind of smart, to be honest. A little weird. This ain't a good hunting location. And it seems like there's random cards. Glass case with cigarette material, broken umbrella, mostly empty bottle of Pepsi. I don't know what somebody would be doing chilling back here, but none of my concern. No people here now. So the goal of this episode and today is, well, I'm probably gonna do some drinking. Probably gonna go shoot some pool. Probably gonna be the main agenda. Probably. We'll see how it goes. Been feeling kind of down and like garbage lately, so haven't been doing much besides playing OSRS. Today, kind of want to make it through without getting poured down rain on. That's kind of the main goal. I did have a topic I wanted to talk about, but I'm going to see how much it plagues my mind until we get to that point. It's not really, it's one of those things that are hard to explain, so hard to really talk about. It's like, I don't fear much. I don't fear much of anything. I don't feel much of anything, if we're being completely honest. Disgust, mild anger, yeah, that fluctuates from time to time. And I don't have the full spectrum of emotions, so I don't usually feel fear about much of anything. Climbing man-made ladders freak me out. Climbing cliffs freak me out, but not as much for whatever reason. I don't know if it's the nature of it. When I try to talk about certain things or talk to certain people, I get this overwhelming fear that stops me from saying certain things. And it bothers me because I'm not a very outspoken person for the most part, but everything I say, at least in my head, is either true or justified in some sense. So being afraid to say it makes me think it's something that somebody else doesn't want me to say. Back to that conspiracy theory. But, like I said, we'll see how much it bothers me and see if I decide to talk about it by the end of this hike or not. I did want to address is that I am considering this summer taking a really, really long hike. Now, it goes through towns that I'm pretty familiar with, but I've never actually taken the trail before. I think the trail goes on for a really, really, really long time, like 100, maybe 200 miles. There's no way I'll be able to do it. Not in one day. But I figured out a point that I can enter the trail and a point that I can exit that looks to be about 20 miles, which I can walk approximately 5 miles in 2 hours. Now, before you're thinking, wow, that's ridiculously slow, you're right. But I have very little to no fatigue when I walk that distance. Unless it's like a lot of roads and uphill, then I feel a little fatiguey. But most of the time, it doesn't really bother me. And I could easily walk that distance in an hour. I do a lot of sightseeing, a lot of screwing around, a lot of talking. Sit for a couple of minutes, enjoy the air and the quiet. If I actually dedicated, if I wanted to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible, I could do it in an hour pretty easily without worrying about injuring myself or being too tired. I could make it in an hour, but that's not the point. 20 miles is a lot different than 5 miles. And as I feel I can do 5 miles in an hour, that might be true. But when I get to like the 15-mile area, you're talking 3-4 hours. And I feel that the time would always be drug out a little further due to fatigue. So I might be able to do the first 2 sets of 5 miles in 2 to 3 hours without much of a problem. But the next 2 sets could take 4 to 5, depending on, you know, when I take a break, because more than likely 20 miles I'll have to sit somewhere eventually and at least eat something. So that is a slight concern, but I feel that I can manage it if I go early enough. I have a slight idea of how to do it, so I feel it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Another concern is that how many people will be there, because it's a fairly well-known trail, but there's a lot of public areas that it cuts through. So if you know anything about me, I don't like to videotape while there's people around. And with my thoughts in mind, I'm figuring 6 to 8 hours would be the trip, considered depending on breaks or what I do, how long it takes me to get things done. I figure 6 to 8 hours for the whole trip, which isn't horrible. I've done far longer, far more often. And like I said, if I dedicate my mind to it, I'm sure I can accomplish it within the allotted time period. But another worry would be, I was thinking about hooking the GoPro, this version of a GoPro to my chest and just walking the whole way with it recording. But the memory card I have only does like 2 hours. So I do have a memory card on my phone that's like 32 gig or something, and all it has is like 300 or 400 songs on it. So that would probably extend the time, but I found it in somebody else's phone that was broken on the side of the road. So I'm not sure what all's on it, or if it needs to be reformatted or something. And if it needs to be reformatted or something, I don't want to ruin my only music outlet, because the songs were already on there. They're not my playlist, but there's a good amount of the songs that I do like. The guy had fairly similar taste, and he must be fairly close to the same age, because there's not a bunch of that dubstep garbage or stuff like that. I deleted most of the rap and stuff like that I'm not into. Kept a couple Eminem songs, because Eminem's alright. I mean, excuse me. I mean, out of most rappers, like Eminem, consider rap or R&B for Akon. They're okay, but most rap I kind of automatically dismissed, because there's too many people talking about slapping and how much money they make, and it's more disgusting than relatable. So I usually don't get too involved. But I'm worried that if I have it reformatted for the camera, or if it works or doesn't work, it might screw up something with the music on the phone, and which isn't the end of the world, because I was considering that I could remove all the music from that one, put it on the 8 gig that's in the camera, use the 32 gig for the camera, take the spare battery, and I could actually document the entire hike. But there are other issues like street signs and trail signs that could give away my location. And as I said before, I don't fear much, and I'm far from famous, but I feel like advertising my location on the internet is not the best idea. Especially, I had a Facebook once upon a time and stuff like that, but it's been a really, really long time. So I'm not too interested in having a Facebook or having, my location and a lot of my personal details splattered all over the internet, because whatever's corrupting my life and following me to this metaphorical dark cloud, I might not be able to fight it or stop it, but I'm not going to willingly hand over the information. Yeah, you get what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's kind of the plan. Now, this, like I said, this trail goes on for probably hundreds of miles. And I was considering, let's go back here for once again. I kind of like visiting back here. I always want to see if I can find that angry raccoon again. But, or the fox that runs back here. The last video that I took, and I caught that animal. Not caught it literally, but caught it on camera. I ran it through my mind a few times, and I'm fairly certain it was just a smaller coyote, because I have gray foxes, silver foxes, whatever they're called, are pretty rare. Like, I've never actually seen one in the woods, so I figure they're pretty rare. The location that it was in and the size makes me think that it was in fact a coyote, which doesn't overly concern me. I mean, rabies might be a real thing, and getting attacked by one would probably suck pretty bad. But like I said before, people are, for the most part, scarier than most animals. Like, even though that thing could have had probably had the capability of injuring me to a pretty good point, it ran away. Like, most things don't want to fight something that is obviously bigger than it is. So that doesn't concern me too bad. Like, if I ran into a black bear, like, yeah, I heard all the rumors and I know kind of how to deal with it, but that would be slightly more concerning, because the likelihood of me being able to win an actual confrontation with a black bear would be highly unlikely. So that concerns me a little bit, but like I said, most of the time it probably wouldn't really go for me unless there was like cubs involved or it was starving. Then I could see that being a slight possibility, but for the most part, people scare me more than most animals do. And to be completely honest, I feel that it'd be far more likely that I could be hurt by like an insect, like some sort of infection or something from like a spider or a mosquito bite would probably be far worse than most animals, because bugs, they don't really fear you, they don't discriminate. They see something and it's lunch. So if I got bit by something, that would probably be more concerning than most other things, or stumbling upon a poisonous snake. But contrary to what a lot of people tell me, I think there's only 2 or 3 poisonous snakes in my area, and I don't think I'm in a high risk of really running upon them. I did find a copperhead once, but it's so far and in between. And I guess that's what makes it dangerous in a sense. You're not really expecting it, so just kind of would happen. Multiple people older than me tell me that there are in fact rattlesnakes in the area. I'm not saying they're wrong, but I mean, I have never seen one. And as I said before, just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's just, I spend a pretty good amount of time out here in different areas, and you'd think I'd have ran across one just by chance, or like, at the very least. Alright. I think that pretty much drains most of the conversation that I had planned in my head. Let's try talking about this thing. So, I got a letter in the mail about the checks that they gave us to sustain the economy during the pandemic thing that everyone's so nuts about. And it was basically just an IRS letter saying you don't have to claim it on your taxes or whatever. But my grandmother told me about it and said she just put it in my important papers folder. And this kind of intrigued me a bit, because I was like, you opened my mail? She's like, no, I just threw the whole envelope in there. So I was like, well, I think I should probably read it. She's like, oh, it's the same as what mine was. And I'm like, okay, so she was trying to, like, put me off of the idea of wasting my time in that sense, but it only took a couple of seconds to find out that she was telling the truth on that part. But decided to dig through some of the other papers that were in there. I got receipts from when I had my last legal problem, which was also kind of crap. I got pulled over driving a truck without a license, and it was I was just driving it from point A to point B to repair it, and they pretty much threw the book at me because they thought I was somebody else. That was the literal words they used. They thought I was the guy that owned the truck initially. That's why they pulled me over quickly, and that's why I got slapped with all kinds of crap and the truck got impounded. I was looking at the receipts. It was a couple $1,000s, which wasn't really the end of the world, because at that time, yeah, I just spent a bunch of money on the truck, and I'd have to spend a bunch of money to get it out of impound, and then a bunch of money on fines, and then it's another bad mark on my reputation. But I had a job, so, you know, I just paid it. I probably should have bought it. Most things, they seem to happen for a reason, and it doesn't seem that I'm allowed to fight it, so to speak. So, I was looking through and I found some papers for my grandfather passed, about power of attorney and stuff. And I don't remember ever seeing those papers before, and they're like 4 or 5 years old. So, it makes me think that she hid them from me, and it makes me think that that's where most of the money's coming from. Like, I know, I've seen the receipts and the papers. She gets like $300 or $400 a month for SSI or whatever, for being old. So, for surviving for so long, or that's under the impression of what it is, I guess. And I know for a fact that that's just not enough money to pay all the bills. So, considering that this is years upon years upon years, either she has a really large savings, which I kind of know she didn't, but, you know, can't be entirely certain. But I don't think she had, you know, a couple $100,000 put away to stifle the bills. So I got to thinking, I was like, okay, so when my father passed away, I got basically nothing. And almost died. My brother was actually living there when he passed away, and he got a fair majority of items that were in the house. Like, he got dibs on everything because he was there from day one. So, as much as he could shove away in a corner somewhere, he got to keep. So, it was whatever. I was kind of trying to move around as much as possible and try to stay away from that town. So, traveling as light as possible meant I didn't need all my father's knickknacks and childlike stuff that I had left behind. So I didn't fight it too much. Everything that was of value just kind of vanished. And it got me to thinking that, you know, I don't remember so much stuff Like, so many things in my mind are, like, blocked. And only thing I can think... Now, don't get me wrong, I've come to realize that I can't really blame the 80 or 90-year-old woman that says she's my grandmother and supposedly lives with me. I can't really say it's her directly, but maybe indirectly, like a pawn. It's kind of a theory. And I think they blamed a lot of it. They said a lot of the stuff went to my father's consort. But my father didn't have a will, and she wouldn't have had any right to it. Of next of kin, everything should have went to me or my brother. But I think somehow it got finagled and ended up in that old lady's account. And you might think that's kind of nuts, but it happens all the time. So, it's not completely absurd to me. And when my pap passed away, she sold the car, she sold his guns, and I got pretty much nothing. I got his old laptop. Again, that was it, you know. That's all I got out of the deal, which was nice. It was better than getting nothing, but, you know, it makes you think, I wonder if that's where all the money's coming from. Because I'm not making much of any money, and she supposedly only gets between $300 to $400. So it makes me wonder if I got gypped out of more than just my life. Now, money isn't a big deal to me. I'm good with money. I'm not like a miser or a prude or greedy. I got a few tattoos that were probably a waste. I smoke cigarettes and drink. You know, it's not like I don't ever waste money, but I'm pretty good with money. Like, for the most part, I know when to, you know, hold back. If, like, I've had a few $100s put back for years, just in case if I had to, you know, get out and go somewhere, or had some strange medical emergency or something. So, and I got that money from the checks they give you for, you know, this pandemic thing or whatever they paid me for, whatever ruse that is. So I did have a few $1,000s, but I had to buy clothes. I had to pay to get my teeth fixed. Odds and ends here and there for different medical stuff. Not a lot because I had coverage at the time. But a good majority of the money went towards things I needed to catch up on. Getting my teeth fixed was probably like $900 to $1,200 or something. So it ate up a very large chunk of my magic government money. So, anyways, trying not to get too off topic. This is probably already 20 to 25 minutes long. Let's get into how do I want to approach it? So I said that I don't think she's directly to blame. That's up for question. It very well could be. I mean, my grandfather was not allowed to do a lot of things because of supposedly her. My father was... My father really disliked her. And to be honest, the only person I really liked was my grandfather. But, and long story short, apparently, somehow, some way, she bought him the house he lived in, and the house he lived in just happened to be right across the street from her. And it made me feel like, did she do this? Did she get him that house of her own money, of her own time, of her own work? Or was it taken from my grandfather, and he was placed there, and my father was placed there, so that he was close by, so he could be the next quote-unquote victim of whatever this is? And it made me kind of think, like, maybe he had that house that just happened to be bought by her, supposedly, to make him feel indebted to her, and then he was close by to be influenced by whatever it is she's influenced by or causing. Like, it's like a disease. It's like this whole corona BS, except not fake. It's more of a mental illness that can spread from person to person. It's like my grandmother's like a puppet. Oh, I guess I'm like a puppet too, in a sense. And somebody's pulling the strings to collect as much as they can, as long as they can. And it just so happens that my grandfather, father, and now me are the victims. We're the ones being used. My grandmother, whenever we do get into arguments, she always says, "Oh, I worked, I did this, I did that, I made so much money, and I'm like, no, do you know what? I lived there for over 18 years, close by, and I'm surprised she didn't have somebody feed her." Like, I mean, it's not completely true. She would go and do the dishes. Once in a while, she'd help us shovel snow. But for the most part, she, as far as making money, other than what was handed to her, I never seen her work a day in her life. So, not that she didn't work before me, but from the story I was given, she married my grandfather at a pretty young age. No, I don't know the details. And he worked pretty much his entire life. He worked at a steel mill, he worked as a janitor in a hospital, and he worked at a bakery for the longest period of time. And now, that man, he liked to go hunting, but he wasn't allowed. He was making the money, it was his days off, he was paying the car bills, he was paying the house bills, but he wasn't allowed. And the few times we either got permission or snuck out, his life was pretty horrible for the next 2 or 3 weeks. The thing that sets me apart from them two is that my grandfather wasn't the best at reading and writing, so she kind of had to write out the checks, she had to balance the checkbooks to keep tabs of the money, she had to be the metaphorical accountant. And I don't know if that was just her taking advantage of the situation to be able to siphon the money and control him. And my father, well, he was kind of in his own little world, I guess, in a sense. He wasn't an idiot. One thing him and I had in common is that we were both quite good at math. And quite good, to be honest, real good. And whenever I was in school and more in practice, mental math was really good for me. Like, I got yelled at I don't know how many times for just writing the answer instead of showing the work. And I'm like, it's not that hard of a problem. Why do I have to show the work? And they always get mad at me because I didn't show the work. And I'm like, that takes an extra 15-20 seconds of mindless. It's actually more work for my brain to think to write down the steps properly than to just write down the answer. So it bothered me because I could prove I wasn't cheating, and I still got the right answer. So, I don't understand the middle steps when it came to that. But getting off topic again. So, although my father wasn't an idiot, he was put in a position that he felt he needed her for XYZ reason. The first night he had a major medical problem, instead of calling an ambulance or calling a doctor or calling somebody, for whatever reason he called her, she called the ambulance. That's the story I got. my father was kind of an alcoholic. It wasn't like, it had its moments that it was worse than it sounded, but he usually had it fairly under control, I guess. But, consuming large amounts of alcohol over a large period of time caused him to start gaining stomach ulcers. And when the ulcers burst, he was throwing up blood at work, and they found him just laying there, and that turned into a big thing. He made it out okay. He never stopped drinking. Can't really blame him with the life we live. Can't blame him at all. But he, uh-oh. I hear the 5-0. He, past that point, it's all kind of a blur, because I left at some point after that, which might sound ironic, and I ended up living with my grandparents for about a year before I left again, before I left for the first time, because then I was done with high school, and that was pretty much getting my diploma was the only thing really holding me to that town at that point. I wanted to finish, My grandfather never finished. I'm pretty sure my father didn't finish high school, but I wanted to finish, so that's what I did. Plus, at this point in the history of the world, there's not too many people that drop out of high school anymore. They either babyfy it to the point that anyone can pass, or people are far more dedicated to get that diploma, because people don't even hire people that have college degrees. If you don't have a high school diploma, that really kind of screws you. So, in my world, what I've learned, it's subjective to what I've been force-fed, rather than is actually the truth. I question that a lot, how many things I was taught over the years about the world and what I saw around me, that this town or these people just fabricated to scare me. So, back to the main thing at hand here. I was considering trying to talk to somebody about it, but as I said before, I don't know anyone that can help me. And at this point, it's 4 or 5 years. Oh, mud. It's 4 or 5 years in the past. Even if somebody could look into it, I'm pretty sure all that money's probably hidden, gone, or replaced. By replaced, I mean switched accounts to the point of it not being really traceable or being able to be accounted for. So, if that's true, they won't for it. And something that I was told growing up is that you can't really just get help. Like you want to go to a psychiatrist, you got to pay them. You want to talk to a lawyer about something that's been done wrong, you got to pay them just to talk to them. And I'm like, if they put somebody in a position of dependency on another person and make it that they have barely any money and somebody else controls their lives, most of their thoughts and their finances, how are they supposed to get help? It's one of those things. So, I have many, many thoughts about, how things went down now. And I feel that, some of these thoughts have always been looming in my mind, but they don't really become concrete until it's already too late, as it seems. Or, they only become concrete whenever it's sure, it being the force at work, I suppose. Jeez. Probably gonna get blamed for burning something down. That's a lot of sirens, and they're right up over the hill. I don't see smoke or anything. None of my concern. I want to get moving before it starts raining. So, I don't really... It's irritating. It's really irritating. because I know something's wrong. I know in some aspect I'm being stolen from, whether it be monetary or my time on this planet. And it bothers me because there's no one to help me. I can't figure it out on my own, at least not in time, obviously. And it's just, it works on me because I went to see my probation officer. They switched probation officers for XYZ reason, right? And I got a new probation officer. And I asked him what happens when this ends. And he said he'd get back to me on that. I'm like, well, it kind of feels like, it's cut ties and good luck. But with all this being done and all these problems I'm having and how much went into this, I can't see being just let go. Like, yeah, a majority of my life has been taken. Like, the best parts of my life have been taken. I mean, another 10 years and I would have no hope at all. So, I missed out on so much because of this garbage. And the thing that bothers me about it is, if I would have got caught for something drug related, that would have been okay to me. That would have been acceptable. Because I was doing things drug related. But, I got the literal book, well, no, not literal, but I got the figurative book thrown at me for a truck without a license. I got a pretty hefty fine for trespassing, and it's like they just came up with things off the top of their head to get money out of me at the time. And I said this once before, but what does this sound like to you guys? Alright? I supposedly did something wrong. Alright? So, okay, I pay court costs. That makes sense. But this probation crap, alright? I have to pay them so they don't rip me out of my house to throw me in a cage. Like it's extortion. I'm not paying for a service. I'm paying for protection from, basically gang militia, actions. I'm paying so that somebody doesn't come into my house and rip me out because I didn't give them money. Like, that's like the definition of gang protection money. That's like the definition of exploitation. And it just goes on. It goes on, and it just, nobody sees it as a problem because it's not a problem for them. I don't know. So, my probation rules, right? The reason I don't talk about it much is because it really doesn't impact my life too much. Supposedly, my grandmother's paying the bills from her magic money supply that, doesn't make any sense. But, like the house my father got, is it supposed to give me a feeling of being indebted to her for this grand scheme? Either way, she supposedly pays it with this magic money supply that she gets. And, so it doesn't really weigh on me too much financially. And as far as the rules, I'm not supposed to be out after 9. Well, in this town, there's barely any reason to be out after 9. I have, no friends, and there's nothing really around to do. I'll go shoot pool once in a while, and I already had it cleared, just in case. But I'll go shoot pool once in a while till 9:30, 10 o'clock. So it doesn't really affect me, because I don't really follow those rules. I'm like, first off, I'm paying you so you don't rip me out of my house. I'm not paying you to ruin more of my life. So another rule is no drugs. Well, that's not much of a problem either. I've been away from this town for so long, I really don't know too many places to get anything decent anyway. I'm sure I have a knack of finding what I want, if I wanted it. But finding anything clean and decent isn't really in the cards for most points. Alright. To further why I don't, besides the fact that I don't really need it, so to speak, is I got drugged. I actually got drugged twice, but the first time I knew what it was, so it didn't bother me. I'm pretty sure they laced it with crack, so I knew what it was. It didn't affect me like the second time. The second time I was drugged, I'm pretty sure it was laced with PCP, and that screwed up my head big time. Now I can't even smoke because it makes my brain, the best way I can describe it is paranoia and tunnel vision. Like, I did smoke a few times after I got drugged to kind of see if I could handle it, and it was horrible. It was horrible. I couldn't even enjoy myself. So I can't even do drugs if I wanted to. Like, it just completely ruined for me. Drinking, I do that obviously, and that's supposedly against the rules, but like, what the heck am I supposed to do? Like, I know, sit in my room and stare at a wall for 5 years, like basically being in prison anyway. So it doesn't really impact me because the rules that I already know are bullshit, I just go ahead and break. And the rules that, well, I mean, I did basically get it cleared. I mean, she was like, oh, my previous person was like, you know, you really don't have any reason to be out till 2 and 3 in the morning, but I'm not gonna, you know, come tase you if you're out past 9. So I kind of got that pretty much cleared. And I passed every drug test for obvious reasons. You don't do it, you can't really be caught for doing something you don't do. So I tell them every time, I'm like, first off, my bladder doesn't cooperate early in the morning. I can't pee on command. And the second thing I say is, you're just wasting, you know, this government money or whatever, you know, supplying these drug tests, because you're never going to get a positive unless there's something in my system that I don't know about, or something triggers it from a medication I take. There's no way, because I haven't done or do anything anymore. So I've kind of lost my train of thought. I heard some geese. Oh, there they are. I don't know if you guys can see them. There's only 2. Alright. I kind of lost my train of thought. Oh, another rule. I'm not supposed to have any firearms or weapons. Now, I've been jumped before, and if I would have had a gun, it would have never have happened. I would have either, well, I don't know if I have the balls to actually shoot somebody, but I highly doubt I really think they would have rethought their attack if I pulled out a semi-automatic 9mm handgun. So I really think they would have reconsidered. But, you know, it's whatever. I'm not supposed to carry a knife. Now, this is something I wanted to show you guys for a couple videos, but I always forget I have it, because I, once again, don't think I'd ever really be capable of stabbing somebody. I'd have to be protecting somebody I really cared about, or backed into a corner at a point of, you know, having something worse than death, like being tortured or beaten. I think if somebody was threatening to stab or shoot me, and I was pretty sure I was just going to die, I'd probably just let them do it. God, that's horrible. But I started carrying it because of that really angry raccoon. I decided that if I run into a really angry raccoon or a really angry coyote, the likelihood of me being able to fist fight it off of me would be a lot smaller of a margin than if I had a knife. So I was carrying my grandfather's old K-bar, but it was a little big, and I'm a little bit more of a stealthy kind of person. So I bought this. I bought it at a yard sale for 50 cents, sharpened it up, and now I bring it with me. It has a finger ring, very versatile. I mostly use it to peel my apples whenever or chop my apples up or cut off dead spots when I'm out in the woods. I've never had to use it, probably never will, but, you know, it's like they're doing everything they can to control me, and if I get into a bad situation, they're making sure I can't defend myself. And it's taking away more and more of my rights. It's like I said about the famous quote, to truly establish communism, to truly establish a dictatorship, you got to take the people's rights away slowly, and by the time they realize it, it'd already be too late. And that's pretty much what's happening to me. Just feels like on a smaller scale, or it's the town I'm in, maybe. I don't really know. But alright, this has gone on for long enough. I'm just nuts anyway, right? Doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter what I say. Whether I'm talking to this box, you guys, if somebody actually hears this. It obviously ain't making much changes. But I'll post it up on the internet anyway. Maybe someday, somebody going through what I'm going through can find solace in the fact that they're not alone. Or it can take some inspiration to find a way out and carve their own path in the world. And like I told the last guy I talked to, I'm not really that old, but I view my life as pretty much over. Like, I got a record now. Nobody will hire me. Just basically sitting around waiting to die. Alright, later on. You know, I may present myself as calm most of the time, and I guess for the most part I am. But whatever's going on is definitely bigger than I am. And I can't help but feel that my life is on the line. Like, not right now, but like when my usefulness is no longer there. When I no longer have a use or a purpose, or I can't be gained from, or if there's somebody batting my cage, you know, so to speak, if somebody's quote-unquote protecting me or something, like when they stop, I feel that I'm going to be subjected to something pretty bad. Whether it be, you know, whoever's stopping the bad thing, or the bad thing decides I'm no longer of use, that something pretty bad's gonna happen. And the reason I feel this way is because all this stuff that happened in my life, good and bad, I suppose, there had to be some sort of reason for at least some of it, you know? Whether I was shown good to make the bad worse, or somebody showed me good because they cared about me in some way. But I feel that the ominous feeling of having my memories corrupted, and the people around me acting weird, and the whole grandmother scenario, it just makes me feel like, you know, no matter how this ends, it's not going to be good. And I feel that I should be afraid. I should be more scared. But I'm kind of, it's been so long and off and on of good and bad that I'm kind of numb to it in a way. It's like, I know it's still there. I know whatever's causing the problem is is still looming around. And whether I'm a direct target or a side product of a bigger goal or conspiracy is yet to be seen. But I feel that by the time I figure it out, it ain't gonna matter. Like, I always talk about leaving town and trying to have a life, go and building something on my own. But by the time I'm free to do so, I'm gonna be in my 30s, and it's something you should do closer to early 20s to make that decision. Like, the whole parents pounding it into your head about going to college and getting a good job and making something of yourself, and how some kids decide they want to take a couple years off to go and do something after high school or experience life or whatever, but then they get right to it afterwards. It's like that gap is closing or closed for me. And it's kind of, I guess reminiscent of like a midlife crisis, I suppose. Like, the area of my life that I was strong enough and healthy enough to make that leap is fading, or is already faded. It's either dwindling or it's already gone. That's why I make the comment of, 10 more years and I'd have no hope at all. It's because, by that point, it's like, so I was a bit of an outcast in high school, right? And I don't know if this has been going on since, birth. I'm kind of maybe suspecting it may have been. Like, people have been indoctrinating and subjugating their kids at an early age to either get them ready or have them pre-programmed to what's going to happen. It's like, I go and I have like fillings for this girl, right? And I want to be with this girl, but she doesn't want me. And then 20 years pass, and she throws a line my way, and you find out that, she's 250 pounds, has 2 kids, and slept with, 40 or 50 guys or something, and now she's ready to settle down with you. It's like, to me, I'd rather be alone. And the way I justify this is, you didn't want me when I wanted you, but now that you don't have any other option, now you want me. It's like, sorry, as much as I would love the human contact, as much as I would love to start a relationship with a high school sweetheart, of so to speak, somebody that I had feelings for once, you should have gave me the chance and respected me and saw through the hard times with me, instead of, waiting 20 years and, having 3 baby daddies and a divorce under your belt. If that makes sense. You can apply that however you feel. It's like somebody offers, it's like you go up to somebody. I know I use apples as an example a lot, so I'm going to do it again. All right. So it's like you go up to somebody and you see they have a really nice red, perfectly ripened apple, and you tell them you want that, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not using it, but you can't have it." And then 6 to 8 months later, they come up to you with this here rotten sludge of a mess that used to be the apple, and it's like, "Here, you can have this now." And it's not only insulting, but, what's the point? I'm not going to have happiness with that apple. I'm not going to I'm not going to enjoy that apple now after what all you've done to it. I don't know. Like I said, it's really hard to talk about sometimes, so I hope my analogies can get through to somebody. Alright, later on. Yeah, it's me again. I don't know how much of this I'm posting, but I just listened to a song that kind of reminded me of something. I wanted to talk about it. So something that plays on my conscience a good bit is, so I've had many relationships in the past, and there have been a handful that I thought that, it was love, and I kind of realized the older I get that, it wasn't completely a lie. I cared a great deal about them, but it wasn't love, because, I don't know, 10 years ago, give or take, I met a person that I actually can say with confidence that I probably did love them. So, which is super weird. It's super weird because I barely knew him. It was like one of those there love at first sight kind of things, right? And the reason this is a bad story is because when I met her, I thought she was single, right? Well, initially. Well, when I met her, the first thing I thought was, I do not care. Nothing's going to stop me from talking to this girl, I was like, I don't care. She's there. I might only have one chance. I have got to talk to her. And this happened a few times in my life, but nothing has ever compelled me so much in my entire life as personal feelings go. So that's what I did, alright? So I ran up to her. I was working at the time. She was like looking for a candy bar, right? So I was like, can I help you find anything? Doing the whole cliche, working man helping a customer thing, right? And I don't remember exactly how the conversation went, but something ended up to the point of where she was asking if they were hiring where I was working, and I was like, put in your application, I will do everything in my power. Now, at this time, I was there for a little over a year, I think, so I was still being crapped on and used, but I did have a lot of time there and seniority over quite a few people. So when I talked to the managers, and I was like, I met this chick, she's looking for a job, she seems really nice, I played it off like it wasn't no big deal, right? I didn't want them to think that there was going to be an interworking relationship brewing. But she got the job. Long story short, she got the job. And then I met her boyfriend. And dude was, at the time, he was probably 6 inches shorter than me. But he had dude was kind of ripped. So, as far as a fist fight was concerned, I don't completely say I would have lost, but I think that there was a good chance that I would have lost. But that's not important. The important thing was, after working with her for well over an additional year and finding out what a piece of garbage that man was, well, you want to call him a man, I made a move, right? He ended up going to prison, and I stayed with her overnight at her house, and, one thing led to another. Apparently she liked me, and, I definitely liked her. So, things went according to plan, so to speak, and I can't say I wasn't worried. I was, but I didn't want her to worry. And this is where the conscience comes in, right? So, I hugged her, and I said, don't worry, everything's going to be okay. I had it in my head that, regardless how this played out, I would fight for this girl with my life. you know? Like, regardless how this turned out, that, you know, if she wanted me, I was going to make it happen. So he got out of jail, and this was a few days after our little, we had a couple little, like, you know, I guess dates, and he drove up, ripped off the road, jumped out of his car and grabbed me, right? And I was walking to work. I was eating some ice cream. It was a blizzard. It wasn't like, it was like a Frosty or something. Like, it wasn't like, I don't like ice cream. It was more like a milkshake. So he grabbed me by the throat, right? And I don't like confrontation. So I wasn't quick to try to, like, attack. I just looked him in the eye and I was like, get your hands off me. And surprisingly, it worked. He like kind of cowered in fear, which kind of surprised me a little bit, because like I said, I think if it came right down to it, I think he would win in an actual fight. I'm not entirely sure, as I'm not a confrontational person. I do have I have the common sense of a fighting common sense, if that makes sense. I'm not trained, but I learned a trick or two over the years, and martial arts has always intrigued me. So, not that I would ever use physical force against anyone unless it was completely necessary. I got the idea in my head that, you know, whatever happened, I will protect this girl. And unfortunately, when things came down to it, not a fight, so to speak, I don't know if she did it to protect me or if she was scared, but she pretty much cut me off completely. And I tried, and I tried, and I tried, but I couldn't get her to just be like, you know, hey, screw you, this guy actually cares about me, he actually wants to see me, he actually wants to be with me, he actually treats me well, and just because I was with you for X amount of time, you know, it's over, you're a piece of trash. So, before I moved away, you know, I had to go see her again, so I gave her a big hug and everything before I left. And it was like super sad and everything, because I knew I'd probably never see her again, and that's pretty much the truth. I haven't seen her since. I came back and I was hoping just, you know, magically I'd come across her, but never happened. I thought I saw him once. God, you don't even know, like, I said I'm not really an emotional person, and that's true, but just seeing him filled me with so much anger. That doesn't really matter. I don't even know why I recorded this. Just to hear my own voice. Sometimes saying it out loud makes my conscience a little lighter. Because, you know, I feel that if the first opportunity that presented itself when he grabbed me, if I would have beat him into a nice thick sidewalk paste, that my life would be very different right now. Yeah, might have been in a bit of trouble. And I might have actually had the happy ending I wanted. I don't know. It's sad. If this video ever gets anywhere and she ever sees it, I'm pretty sure she'll know I'm talking about her. Like, there wasn't a lot of events in my life that was, you know, that magical, so to speak. So, if she ever sees it, I hope she found happiness, you know? I probably will not post this This is a little too emotional for me. I think about it a lot because I'm like, you know, out of everyone I've been with, out of all the things I've done, nothing made me happier than that one night. Nothing made me feel like being a better person. Nothing made me feel like I was worth something than that one night. Like, things have had their ups and downs where I felt like I may have a purpose, that I may be able to make a life, but nothing was so clear-cut as, you know, being with her. Like, it was the one thing that truly, like, there were things in my life that made me want to be a better person, be more educated, be more empathetic, but nothing made me want to truly be a better person than her. It's just me talking about the past again. It ain't gonna really make a difference. Oh well. It's getting dark. It's been drizzling off and on. Should probably go. I'll probably add most of these here little clips to my do not publish until I'm on death row or something kind of folder, but we'll see. I don't know. I guess ultimately it doesn't really matter. Later.